Hi, I'm Montgomery County District Attorney Kevin Steele, and I stand here during this pandemic, during unprecedented times, to talk to you about what law enforcement is seeing and hope that we can work together to help children. We're all facing stresses, we're all facing challenges right now. And one thing that law enforcement is seeing is a rise in domestic violence calls. We're seeing more and more of them coming in, and at the same time, we're seeing less and less calls to Childline, less and less calls to report child abuse. That is not because the abuse is not going on. We are afraid that that is because there are less eyes on some of the most vulnerable, our children. So we ask you to help us in this regard. We ask you as teachers, as administrators, as doctors, as nurses, folks that would otherwise be mandatory reporters, to take a look at what is going on and do your best. I understand it's very difficult when you may only be seeing some children virtually for short periods of time, but there are red flags. And we are here today to present to you some information that may help you in this regard. We're here to present to you experts from the Mission Kids Child Advocacy Center. We're here to present to you an expert from Montgomery County Office of Children and Youth. We hope that providing you these resources will help you to identify when a child is being abused and make sure that the authorities know about it so that we can try and stop the abuse that is going on.
Hi, I'm Leslie Slingsby, Executive Director of Mission Kids Child Advocacy Center, right here in Montgomery County. Our concern is always the safety of our children and in helping those children who might not be in safe situations. I'm sure that you share this same concern, but teaching in this partly or fully virtual environment, you may be wondering just how you can spot child abuse or a child in trouble. To be sure, it is more difficult than ever, and it is more difficult from afar, but there are some signs and red flags that you can look for. Signs to look for in children are both subtle and glaring at the same time. Some things to look for or to probe when you see them: children not participating in school activities or school itself, but not due to a lack of technology or ability. Children with visible signs of injuries that are unexplained or injuries that might not match their story. A child that actually discloses maltreatment. A child that's taking their own responsibilities beyond what they are developmentally appropriate for because of their age and or ability. For example, a child being left alone for extended periods of time and or being responsible for younger siblings when they are too young to do so. Changes in the child's behavior. While this may not mean that they're being maltreated or abused, it normally does mean that something's going on that maybe the child might need help with. There are also signs that you can look for in adults or caregivers. If they start denying the existence of the child's problems in schools or at home, or blames the child for them, sees the child as entirely bad, worthless, or burdensome, relies on the child for care, attention, or satisfaction of their own parental needs, shows little concern for the child, constantly blames, belittles, or berates the child, consistently describing the child negatively or overly rejecting the child. Or maybe the parents appear to need support regarding mental health, substance abuse, or intimate partner violence. If you notice some of these subtle signs, reach out, talk to the child or the parents to find out some more information. Ask questions like, what's the best part of your life right now? Maybe what's the worst part of your life right now? Reach out to the families who haven't been active in school or other activities and talk to parents and the child. Maybe there's something, not abuse, but they're struggling with something, and you might be able to help by providing a listening ear or connecting them with some resources available through your school community or the community at large. Finally, remember for older children, we normally say 6th to 12th grades. You can also remind those students about the Safe to Say Something program, where students can request help for themselves or a friend by reporting it via app, calling the hotline at 844 SAF 2 SAY, or going to the website safetosaypa.org. You can also point them to the video about the program produced by Mission Kids that's available on YouTube. Together, we can help our children remain safe through this pandemic and beyond. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for our children.
Hello, I'm Roberto Duarte with the Montgomery County Office of Children and Youth. I'm going to talk a little bit about what you, as a mandated reporter, are obligated to do and what actions to take should you suspect child abuse or a child discloses to you. As a mandated reporter, you must report any suspicion or disclosure of child abuse, but you are not responsible for determining the validity. Here are some examples of basic information you may have for your report. In general, what happened? Where did the abuse take place? When was the most recent abuse? Who is the suspected perpetrator and his or her relationship to the child? Note that you are not required to have all this information to make a report. You must make a report anytime you suspect child abuse, even if you don't have every detail. So who to contact? If you suspect a child is a victim of abuse or have other concerns about the child's welfare, please call Childline at 1-800-932-0313 or go online to file a report at www.keepkidssafe.pa.gov. Online reporting is the preferred method of reporting for mandated reporters. You don't have to have personal knowledge of the abuse. The child doesn't have to tell you that they are a victim of abuse. You don't have to know who the perpetrator is, and you don't have to have any personal knowledge. Also, please remember that any person making a referral will remain confidential. If a child discloses abuse to you, the most important thing is to allow the child to talk and to feel comfortable in talking with you. Some important ways to do that are by managing your own emotions. Reassure the child that it is not his or her fault. Assure the child that what she or he is telling you is important, and others who work with kids will talk to them more in depth. Remind the child about the limits of confidentiality and reporting. If necessary, assess for safety utilizing open-ended questions, and just listen. Some reminders of what not to do. Remember, do not intervene, interview, or probe for more details. Do not show shock or other strong emotion or reaction in front of the child. Do not show bias toward the abuser. Do not make any promises you can't keep. And do not do or say anything that will influence the child's willingness to disclose. When a child discloses abuse, carefully document the date, time, and specific circumstances of the disclosure. This will be very important should the abuser be arrested and prosecuted. Information to document includes who was present for the disclosure, what prompted the child to reveal the abuse, for example, a drawing or a statement in an essay you questioned, bruises or behaviors you noticed, a recently viewed TV show or movie. Also, remember to document what was said by the child and the person to whom the child disclosed. Document what action was taken as a result of the disclosure. And remember that mandated reporters are permitted to photograph injuries for documentation. purposes. This is permissible, but it is not required. Thank you for listening.